have in person, we have Bruce Turkel next. Bruce is a guy who loves to make things up. He's a musician, he's a branding man, he draws pictures, he sees things in pictures. And when you're allowed to turn those cell phones back on, you could go to Twitter and look up hashtag brandisms and see some really great quips from him. One of my favorites is content in your marketing. Content will make you money. Context will make you rich.
Hello, everyone. I want to tell you a little story about the year 2000 because it was a great year. My advertising agency was rocking and rolling, my family was healthy, and my first book had just come out. And I was invited to do a book signing at what is probably the most prestigious design conference in the country. I was mindful of how lucky I was. The night before the signing, they had a VIP dinner, and seated on my left was a guy by the name of Steph Sagmeister. I don't know how many of y'all know him, but that year, Steph was the it boy in the design world. Just like Hollywood has an it boy and an it girl, he was it. Tall, good-looking, dressed in all black, and because he was German, he spoke English better than I do, and had enough accent just to be charming. On the other side was my beautiful wife, and next to Gloria was the chief marketing officer of a major U.S. corporation that has built its reputation on design. It was a client I lusted after. As I said, I was mindful of how lucky I was. So the next morning I got up to go to the signing. My 6-year-old daughter, Aliana, asked if she could come with me. We went down, the elevator doors opened, and Ali and I walked out hand in hand to find a hallway full of people. They were all in line, waiting to get into the book signing. Ali asked me, "Daddy, are all these people here for your book?" And not wanting to act quite as full of myself as I felt, and realizing it was a teaching moment, I said, "No, sweetheart, I'm sure a lot of them are here for Steph's book too." So we went into the main room, and the line went all the way around the booth. And we followed the line all the way. We walked around the booths. There were the 2 tables for the book signing. But what we found was every person in line was in Steph's line. Sure, you're laughing now. There wasn't a single person in my line. I didn't think I could feel much worse than I did at that moment. But we sat down. Ali busied herself with drawing with all the Sharpies that I had to sign all those books. And I started doing the Vulcan mind meld, trying to will people into my line. When all of a sudden Ali decided to take matters into her own hands, she jumped up, went under the table, past the curtains, and popped out and tried to drag people into my line, saying, "Come look at my daddy's book. It's really good." Now I was sure I couldn't feel any worse. I was wrong, because just then my wife comes walking up with the marketing officer from that corporation. She had run into him at breakfast and told him, "Why don't you come with me and come see my brilliant superstar designer husband? I bet I could get you a free book, and I bet you won't have to wait in line." By the way, at this point, Steph had sold all his books. He was shaking hands, grinning, and taking pictures. It was a real road to Damascus moment for me, because what I realized was nobody had seen my book, and nobody had seen his book. They hadn't been released. Why did his sell and mine didn't? And I spent the next days, weeks, years figuring it out. And because of what I learned, we have built powerful, compelling brands for our clients. Because you see, it's the brand they were buying, not the book. Now, before you think about the usual that a brand, it's a logo, it's a trademark, it's none of those things. A brand is what people think about you when you're not around. And a brand is why they buy what you're selling, hire your service, or agree to your argument. Brands are just as important for first-time job seekers or lawyers in litigation as they are for multinational corporations. So the question becomes then, how do you build a powerful brand so you can accomplish what you want? And the answer is simple. It's 3 words. But before I tell you how, I got to tell you about some of the things you shouldn't be doing, because we have these misconceptions that we all suffer from. The first one is the myth of uniqueness. If you grew up in this country or on a steady diet of Western culture, you are aware of this. Because think about the prototypical cowboy movie. Our hero rides into town alone. He's a unique individual. No one like him. Comes into town on his horse, and over the course of the movie, through lots of trial and tribulation, chases out the bad guys with only a horse and a six-shooter. He's very unique. But what happens after the bad guys leave? Does he stay and build a water treatment plant to provide clean water for the town? Does he work with the PTA to help them set up literacy programs for fifth graders? Does he come up with a program to buy braces for bow-legged cowboys? No, he leaves by himself. We are taught that we do these things by ourselves. We are taught to be unique. But do you know what the word unique means? It means unlike any other. You can't be any more slightly unique or a little unique than you can be a little excellent, a little perfect, or a little pregnant. Being unique is not a brand. Because what happens to unique people in society? Joan of Arc, unique, brand of mistake. Vincent van Gogh, unique, committed suicide. Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, they were all unique, and they all died from drug overdoses after trying to get rid of the pain of being unique. Being unique is not a brand. The second fallacy is the myth of competency. We all think that we have to be the best before we go out and sell what we do. And I hear over and over in books and speeches from everybody, the best brand is a great product. And that's nonsense. Because a great brand is just cost of entry. I mean, a great product is just cost of entry. If you don't have a great product, if you don't have a great service, you're not in business. But just because you do doesn't mean anybody's interested in what you have to sell or what you have to say. The best guitar players are not necessarily the most successful ones because they're home doing their arpeggios 7 hours a day instead of being outside selling. Sting said the search for perfection is all very well, but to look for heaven is to live in hell. And the third myth is the myth of mindfulness. We're all so busy thinking about ourselves and what we can do that we don't pay attention to where our brand is going. If I were to say to you, it's not what you know, you would all yell out. But it's not who you know. It's who knows you. Because making the phone call is not where the business is. It's in getting the phone call answered. The people in that line were all there because they knew who Steph was, and they didn't know who I was. These days, we're all taught to be mindful. Be aware. Have your feet on the floor. Feel your butt in the seat. Pay attention to everything that's going on and how it's affecting you. But I have a radical suggestion. Why don't we stop being so mindful? And why don't we try being never mindful? Stop thinking about ourselves. Stop thinking about our brands and start thinking about others. That's the way it works, and I can prove it. When Apple came out with the iPod, if you remember the ads, they showed a silhouette of a person dancing, surrounded by brilliant color. The only thing we knew about the product was a white box and white headphones. They didn't tell us anything about the product. They told us about that silhouette. Now, if the silhouette was a woman, it could have been you, it could have been your mother, it could have been your sister, your aunt, your neighbor. Was Apple saying that all those people love iPods? No, they were saying you will love an iPod. You will love the experience. When Barack Obama went for arguably the most important consumer product in the world, the presidency of the United States, he used 3 words, which I think is the best ad line ever written. Yes, we can. Yes, it's positive. We, it's inclusive. Can, it's aspirational. And we believed it, and a majority of voters voted for him. But more importantly, 68% of first-time voters, 2/3, bought the brand because what Apple knew and what Obama knew was 3 words: build your brand. All about them. All about them. The most powerful brands, the most compelling brands, the brands that help you win your argument, sell your product, sell your service, do not make the consumer feel good about you and what you're selling. They make your customer feel good about themselves.